Hello everyone, my name is Anton, and actually 4 months ago in a video about Radxa A5E, I promised one more video about A5E in a few weeks, and it gets a little bit longer. So, my first lesson, there are two A5E, here are they look almost exactly the same, but they completely different. And the difference is specifically around the chip here. As you can see, one of them shiny and one of them is black. So, and the difference that one of them has NPU and the second one that doesn't have NPU. But when I found this mistake, they sent me a new board, and actually here it is. So it was a little bit longer than a few weeks. And actually this video, it's just a small appendix to previous one. So a lot of stuff how to run the general discussion of frameworks, I did it in previous video. Here it's a small update about this specific board. And also here a little bit information about some interesting stuff. First of all, this board, this is this one, it's pretty close to A7A. The main difference is performance and price. So this board, as you can see, it's smaller, the price is cheaper and significantly cheaper, and performance is lower, around 2 to 3 times depending on the network size. Of course, I'm speaking about performance for neural networks. They have different NPU units, but in general, the use cases for both of them, in my opinion, is pretty similar. Pipeline for installing exactly the same, but documentation is a little bit better than it was 4 months ago. Actually, they append a few stuff in documentation, and the only actual issue in documentation, they forgot to mention that you need installed compiler, but it's obvious. Everything is working, everything working out of the box right now. There are only two more things about to discuss. First, speed. So I tested just 2 networks, which were an examples, because previously I did more complex, how to export, how to infer, and again, in previous video, everything exactly the same, like here. So here just a check of the speed in comparison with a few similar platform, and specifically with A7A. And as you can see, it's slower. And for different network, difference can be different. Also, I previously used framework ACUITY for network export and so on, but also there is a mentioning in documentation that you can use TeamVX framework for inferencing, but in documentation you can see a little bit mentioning that please go to Vivanta TeamVX repository and try it yourself. We will not have here anything in documentation. I tried to do this, and actually I were unsuccessful. So in my opinion, the only way how you can run network easily on this network, it's through ACUITY toolkit, which again, previously I was discussing. Also, I need to mention that this board is extremely nice from cooling perspective and from power consumption. As you can see, during the inference, it's consuming like around 2.5 watt, and its maximum temperature without anything around it, it's 40 degrees. So no throttling, nothing. I run this in this mode around 15 minutes and it was the same. So in my opinion, this board great for some small setups when you just take in this board, put it in some box and cover, and it's just working. Of course, it may not work in some hot environments and will throttle, but for some simple environments, this board, it's really light. Out of the box, you have almost everything you need. maybe a few words about competitors, positioning on marketing, and so. I already mentioned this in previous video, but actually this board is super extremely cheap, and it has pretty nice inference capabilities. So you can infer this like for small cameras, maybe outside of the house, observation of animals, classification of situation, some simple tracking. It's more than enough to run a lot of detection classification networks. So basically everything is nice, but there is one drawback, that complexity of use. In my opinion, this board is pretty nice. It's working. It's working with most simple convolutional neural network and working with everything that specifically these types of board should work. And it's super cheap. So thank you for watching. Bye. Hope I meet you in the next video.